We're going to do an introduction of solving log equations. So this will be solving log equations part 1. We're going to get some of the fundamentals down, and we'll talk about one technique for solving a log equation. So first of all, we've got to get a little bit of an idea of what restrictions we have on logs. And this will help illustrate the problem. If you look at this problem, we want to take log base 7 of negative 49. We would typically set this equal to x and set up an exponential. So we create this one and say, hey, that's 7 to the x power equals negative 49. The problem is you can never take a positive number, put it to a power, and get a negative. That's just not possible. So what this tells us is, since that happens, you are not allowed to take, you cannot take the log of a negative or 0. So an important fact, you cannot take the logarithm of a negative or 0. Now why we include 0 in it is the same thing. If we try to take log base 7 of 0, you'd have 7 to what power would equal 0? You can never put 7 to a power and get 0. So that's an important restriction to remember. It's going to lead to the fact that when we do log problems, you're going to have to check your answers. So the technique we're going to use is we're going to convert to an exponential and solve. All right, now for right now, I'm going to put down the fact that you need to check your work, check your answers. Now in this case, when we do it though, we're just looking to see if you're taking the log of a negative or 0. Later, we'll have more techniques. Once we learn how to use our calculators with these, we'll be able to check it on our calculators. All right, so let's take a look here. We're going to solve these. So the first step on number 1 here is I'm going to use our circle tool. I'm going to put 3 to the 4th power is equal to the other, when we come back, equal to x plus 2. Well, 3 to the 4th power is equal to 81, equals x plus 2. Subtract 2 from both sides and you get x equal to 79. And so that's our solution. Notice if you put in 79 here, you do not get a negative, so it does check. All right, let's go to this one. This one we're going to do our circle tour as well. So 10 to the 4th power equals x squared. And so 10 to the 4th equals 10,000. And if you take the square root of that, you get plus or minus 100. So square root of 10,000 is 100, but remember when you take the square root of an x squared, that leads to an absolute value, that leads to us having a plus or minus. Now you might say, is this going to be a problem because we have a negative 100 as one of our answers? Well, notice when we square it, we're not taking the log of a negative, it becomes a positive. So it does check out, so both of these two are solutions to this equation. Let's go to these two. This one we're going to do the same idea of doing our circle tour. So x cubed is going to equal 64. To get rid of the cube, we're going to take the cube root of both sides. So the cube root of 64, and the cube root of 64 is just equal to 4. Now you can do that on your calculator if you'd like to, or you can use this as a 1/3 power on your calculator. Might help, or you might know that if you multiply 4 times 4 times 4, you get 64. So our answer to this one's 4. Notice that I already have a number there, so I don't have to worry about it being a negative or not. Same thing here, I've got a number there, so don't have to worry about a negative on this one. Do our circle tour, x to the 3/4 power equals 125. Now you might wonder, how do you get rid of a 3/4 power? Well, I'm gonna do it by hand, and then I'll show you how to do it on your calculator as well. But the first thing you gotta recognize is that in order to get rid of a 3/4 power, you're gonna put both sides to the reciprocal power. We're gonna put it to the 4/3 power. So this would be 125 to the 4/3 power. Now, once we've got that, 3/4 times 4/3 is just 1, so you have just x. This means, if you remember, what we do is we're gonna take the cube root of 125, and then we're gonna put it to the 4th power. The denominator is the index, the numerator is the exponent. We're now going to simplify that. So we've got the cube root of 125, which is 5, put it to the 4th power, and then you get the 5 to the 4th power is 625. So that is our answer. Now let's see how we can do, let's go back up to this step, and let's do that on our calculator just to double check. We're gonna do 125 to the 4/3. So when we pull up our calculator, we're gonna have 125 raised to the 4 divided by 3 power, and notice you get 625. So you can do it by hand, or you can use your calculator to help you with the fractional exponent. So the introduction to these log problems, what we've got to recognize is that, first of all, a restriction is you cannot take the log of a negative or 0. And then once the technique we're going to use at the beginning here is we're going to take these log problems, convert them into exponentials, and then we're going to solve the exponential to get our solution. You should check your answers to make sure you're not taking the log of a negative as well.